The Blessing of Bud and His Boys by Melissa Nipper. As a young 20-something-year-old, my first job away from home, as well as my first apartment in a dorm full of teenage boys no less, was a high school guidance counselor for a small all-boys international college prep school outside of Cleveland. It wasn't easy. Many of the boys preferred to be in the comfort of their own homes, but for one reason or another, that wasn't the best option for them. Whether educationally, emotionally, or for other reasons, they needed something more. There were many bumps during my first year. Often, I felt I had made the wrong decision in my profession and second-guessed myself. Throughout the year, however, with all the stressors, I found the positives far outweighed the rough patches. We worked seemingly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in order to guide these boys through turbulent times. It's through these commitments and these connections that we help them believe in themselves and their potential. Just as the school helped guide the boys, I also had a guide, and those lessons I learned from him still have an impact on my life, both professionally and personally, even to this day. Mr. Field, or Bud, as he was affectionately called by everyone, including the students, had worked at the school for many decades. He and his wife, with whom he met on campus and subsequently married, mentored me during that first year. When summer arrived, I was shocked to find a letter from Bud in my mailbox only a couple weeks after school ended. The words in that letter still resonate to this day and have been guiding principle in the way I treat and view others, and even in the way I live my life. Here's a snippet of that letter. Compliments are hard to come by at Grand River, but you certainly deserve your share of them. You finished that year still smiling, still positive, still contributing, and still volunteering. And doing all that pondering last summer, pros and cons and all, did you imagine the rewards? Did you realize any of them? I hope so. In spite of the inevitable hassles and letdowns, GRA can be a satisfying place to live and work. I hope you experience more of that. In his second letter to me a couple weeks before the start of the 2000-2001 school year, he wrote, "Kids feel much more free to talk and more receptive to listen on their turf than they do when called into an office. If you can form a trusting relationship, you can affect change. And hard exteriors don't always go very deep." From Bud, I learned how to be patient. I learned the importance of giving respect, even when respect was not given back. I learned that optimism is always the best, no matter what, and I learned to always give the benefit of the doubt because you never know what someone else may be struggling with. I still have the letters he wrote me during those 2 summers he knew me. He spent the summers in Vermont with his wife. Much of the time he spent writing not only to the faculty, but also to his boys, Bud's boys, as they called themselves. Always writing something to inspire thought, helping us to understand ourselves better with just a few simple strokes of his pen. What may have taken him 5 minutes to write has given me, as well as so many others, decades of inspiration. Even now, 20 years later, I sometimes still get out Bud's letters to find inspiration, not only for my profession, but for life in general. I only knew this legend for 30 months, but that is all it took to make a lifetime of a difference to me. Just as I know he has impacted thousands of lives that he influenced over the decades he worked at that school. At the start of the school year, fall 2001 started like any other year. But after just a few weeks, we watched live as planes flew into the Twin Towers. Then, only a month later, we were given the news that Bud, the school's most beloved teacher, had been diagnosed with cancer. Bud stayed on campus, retrieved treatment in Cleveland, and continued to work with his boys as much as he could. I watched the strength he mustered to help his boys, and I was in awe at the love and strength he and his wife had for each other, but also for the commitment they had to continue to have to help the boys at the school. When hospice said the end was near, with the blessings of his wife, every single one of Bud's boys walked through his apartment to say their goodbyes. The next morning, we learned Bud passed away. Today, I can still hear the birds chirping and feel the warmth of the sun for this very unusually warm late morning for a Northeast Ohio December. A few days later, boys from all over the world walked to the church to bid their final farewells. For some of the rough and tumble kids we had, I saw them allow themselves to let their guard down, to cry, and to share some of their emotions. They learned how to open up, be vulnerable, and to trust others with their emotions. At the end of every year, Bud would do a dorm awards ceremony. These had become legendary. All year, the boys thought they were one step ahead of Bud. They would hear him walking down the dorm hall late in the evening when they were all supposed to be in bed. He would be swinging his dorm keys and whistling. We all came to find out this was Bud's way of giving the students a polite warning to stop whatever mischief they were up to so that they wouldn't get caught and receive consequences. This was the lesson they learned at the end of every year when Bud would surprise them with some made-up award of one kind or another that revealed he knew what exactly they had been doing all along. Yet, there they were, soon to be high school graduates and college freshmen. The boys that many lost hope in, boys that had lost hope in themselves, seeing that they were taken care of. They learned to believe in themselves during their time at the school, and Bud's boys continue to take the lessons Bud taught them and apply them to daily life. I can't help but smile every time I log onto Facebook and see them with their families, with their own children, knowing how proud Bud would be that he had a lasting impact on their lives. On July 30th, I received Bud's final letter. He talked about his projects. Bud always paid special attention to the gamesmanship kids. He preferred this term over deceitful or troubled. Even in the summer months, he was always thinking about how he could help them believe in themselves, and how he could help others see deeper than that rough exterior they like to portray. Thank you, Bud, for teaching us all to never give up on those around us, because hard exteriors don't always go very deep. Proud groundhog ambassador from Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, Melissa has been a guidance counselor and college placement counselor since 1999. Melissa and her husband have 2 boys that grew up having brothers from all over the world at Grand River Academy. She is thankful for all the amazing connections she made while at GRA, especially the ICG. Melissa was my guidance counselor in high school and passed the power of believing in oneself on to me. And if you like this inspirational story and would like to see more of them, please check out Beacons in the Darkness, Inspirational Stories from People I Know, available anywhere books are sold, profits of which are donated to a rescue shelter for dogs in Western New York State.